So I want to take a quick video to help out the Porsche community a little bit as far as a clutch, doing a clutch on a twin turbo. This is not a Mezger engine, I can never say that correctly. It's a 997.2, but the transmission is kind of similar, right? So what I want to do is, this is the bell housing. You guys have heard about this crazy pin design. Here is the clutch fork pin. And here's the access hole where you have to get that pin out of when it's inside the car. So what happens is I'm going to insert this without the clutch fork here so you can see it. So you have to get this pin in here, inside. You got a tiny little bit of space for your fingers. Now remember, I'm standing up. Normally you're like on your back and you have this much room to work with before you run into stuff that's inside the car there, inside the bell, not the bell housing, but the tunnel. So anyway, you got to stick your finger in here and somehow get this shaft to go all the way in without messing up the needle bearings that are on the other side. And you have to get that pin in there. Now, the crazy thing is you have to do all that on your back, but you also have to do that while going through the clutch fork. And this clutch fork is taped to the actual pressure plate and the flywheel so it doesn't fall over, and I'll show you that in a moment. So I can't do this with two hands, but basically what happens, let me pull this back out again. Carefully, right? And I have to say carefully, and meanwhile I have all the room in the world because I'm standing here. So this bad boy is going to be taped up. I had it backwards when I was just showing you. It's going to be taped up to the flywheel, and then when you slide the transmission on, it's going to fit into place. Right? Now, if I let go of it, it's going to fall, right? It's going to be taped up to the pressure plate and the flywheel. So this thing's going to be sitting here. And while that's sitting there, I'm going to drop it for a moment. You somehow have to slide this pin through while you're on your back and get it through the fork, through the other side, while it's sitting on the release bearing without flipping over. You can't see my hands here, but without flipping over and falling. And you have to do that without messing up the needle bearings and everything else. And then once it's kind of lined up, you got to stick your fingers inside here before it's completely bolted and pull the tape out that's taping this thing, that's holding it to the actual pressure plate. So that's the infamous design. Porsche guys that have done this, do this for a living, say they can do it now in one shot. They can do a whole clutch job in 2.5 or 3 hours. That's just fantastic. I don't know how much gray hair they had to do to be able to accomplish that. But it's kind of a ridiculous idea. So anyway, I'm going to put the pin down. I'm going to take this back. And I'm going to go down to the car and show you what I'm talking about. So we're underneath the car now. There is the new clutch. It's installed. Now, how do I do this and videotape this at the same time without killing myself? So anyway, here's the fork again, right? So the fork now is going to end up being this way because that's to face the clutch master cylinder. And you have to put this thing here, just like that. And you can already see I'm shaking here because I'm trying to look through the camera. You have to tape it. Put a piece of tape across this up to the top, holding it in place. So that when you take the transmission and you line up the trans and you pop it on here, you can now, from this side, because that's where the transmission will be in, you have to fit the pin up and slide it through the actual hole in that transmission there, through that vent hole, into the pin. Once you get it in place, stick your fingers up on top, up here, and pull the tape out. So that's what I have to do. I have a few friends of mine that have actually told me to let them know how many tries this takes. Because when you do that and you mess something up, the bolts or the needle bearings or whatever fall inside the bell housing. And now you have to take the entire transmission back off to fish them out. So that's the fun that I'm up against. And I just figured I'd take a quick video because some people have seen this, they've heard about it, but they don't actually know how it goes together. Let me take this back down before it falls. So that's that. Also, just to show somebody, I didn't have a clutch alignment tool, so I ended up making one. If you have the right size sockets, you can actually make them. I ended up making one and bolting it together with a couple small bolts. This last socket here actually goes into the pilot bearing. This bigger one goes into the clutch disc. Fits in like so. Nice and easy. And then the larger one, I apologize for this video, right? It's going to be kind of shaky. Fits over the whole thing. So now you actually have something that lines up in the release bearing, the clutch disc, and the pilot, because you want to make this as lined up as possible, because when you're trying to do this whole thing, usually you can kind of wiggle the tranny around, kick it around with your feet a little bit to get it to line up, or move the clutch disc. But if you got a fork in there that's being held up with painter's tape, good luck. So, and I'm saying that good luck because I have to do this now. Hopefully I can get it in one shot, but who knows. Anyway, that's it. So again, this is a 997.2 manual transmission. Doing some other upgrades while I have the whole thing apart. Hydraulic cable also, which is extremely helpful when doing this job. Anyway, let you know how it goes. I hope this video was helpful for some of you guys. Take care.